What's up, superstars? This is Caleb, aka BigM, and this is the Power Up Podcast. Coming back at you guys here with episode 2. If you're a veteran listener at this point, I thank you very much for tuning in once again. And if you're new, I'm glad to see you here. So yeah, this one is going to be a relatively shorter episode, based on how long the first one was. I'm just going to cut it down, talk about a few less topics here today. And but give them a little bit more girth and give them a lot more explanation than I did previously. So with that being said, like always, we have tournament roundup to start off. We'll go over like one or two topics outside of tournament roundup, because there were a couple of interesting things I wanted to talk about today. And then lastly, we're just going to round it off with Twitter questions. I'll give those a little bit more oomph this time. So let's jump right in. Going on to the tourney roundup. We're going to start off, as always, with the ESA tourney. The still kind of sparking up controversy here and there, as it is one of the only kind of big name, quote unquote, offline tourneys that's happening right now. While they do have player limits and are continuing to sanitize, people are still very skeptical if any offline tournaments should be running, but there are locals that are happening in the area, so I'll report on some of the happenings that's going on. As of recording, the recording date is August 30th. I'm recording in the afternoon here around 4 o'clock, and that's Central Standard Time there. And today's actually Sunday, so there is actually an ESA today, but I didn't have the patience to kind of wait and get those results, so we'll just go ahead and report on the last week's tourney. And this one, kind of an interesting one. This one happened on 8/23, so that's August 23rd. Yeah, we had a very interesting lineup of characters and people that won. So just let me go ahead and go over top 8 real quickly here. So initially we had, starting at 7th place, you had Morabito and Let's It. Both of those guys getting 7th there. Then I'm Dolan and Ansem getting 5th place there, and Tron getting 4th, Barnabas reaching the 3rd place there, Rat claiming 2nd, and Justin, claiming the victory here. He dropped one set, but ended up getting the gold medal regardless. So yeah, and what's crazy is that, you may think that the top 8 is a little less notable if you're familiar with the Kansas scene. A couple of interesting names are missing from the last 2 ESAs that should be in that top 8. A couple people got upset. Notably, Toffee got upset by Rat again. This time a lot closer in a 2-1 set. Must have been a great set. Barnabas beat Morabito, which, depending on who you ask, that's an upset. Just trying to say there's that Morabito has performed pretty well at these ESAs, and Barnabas, a really great player in our scene. Just kind of showing that he's superior over that and able to kind of come up and win that set 2-1. And other than that, there were some upsets and losers, which are a little bit harder to pin down, as Toffee got eliminated by I'm Dolan, and Morabito ended up getting eliminated by Trombone, which isn't really much of an upset. These players, as you get down the list, these players are a little bit more closer in skill. So we'll kind of go on here as the next thing I wanted to talk about, the next tournament. I was mentioning this in the last episode. It was the Gimvitational. The Invitational held by Gamer, prolific TO and figurehead in the Smash community. He held a online invitational where he invited 8 very great players to represent the 8 buff characters from the latest patch, and that being Mewtwo, Falco, Captain Falcon, a couple others here. But yeah, Diddy Kong, Corrin, Marth, Pit, Ike, and yeah, that's the 8 there. I sound like I rounded out the 8 and I'm unsure of myself, or I'll be very stupid. We'll see when I listen back to this. But regardless, it was a great Invitational. All the VODs are on YouTube. You can go to VG Bootcamp and find each and every one of the matches. Congratulations to Tweak to winning it all. I was watching kind of his YouTube highlight video recap, and he did kind of show his displeasures with Wi-Fi, but ultimately had fun being able to play with these top players once again. Most definitely not in the environment he would want to do it in, but honestly, it was an enjoy to watch these players go back at it once again. And honestly, there's a lot of things I want to highlight about this invitational in particular. So initially, what I want to say is that MKLeo and Tweak, always a pleasure to watch. Those two players, every single match they play, very hype. And, if you don't have time to go through every single match in the Invitational, I would suggest watching pretty much any match that MKLeo's in or any match that Tweak is in. Specifically the MKLeo versus Mars set. That was a very great set, and it also highlights one of the other things that I wanted to mention about this tournament, and that's that Gimmer decided to utilize a hazards on stage list for this tournament. So it isn't it's most definitely not standard in competitive Smash Bros to use hazards on. This is because this adds in moving platforms, stage hazards, and all this nonsense that a lot of competitive players like to stray away from standardly. But since we got Small Battlefield introduced, Gimmer, saw that there was a potential for hazards on rule set. So the stage list ended up with 5 different stages, no bans. So he was just wanting to showcase the new hazards on stages rather than, make a comprehensive stage list. But the stage list is as follows. We had regular battlefield, Final Destination, Small Battlefield, Smashville, and Town and City. So, yeah, a very standard set of stages there. And honestly, I could see that being like the neutral picks in a competitive rule set. And the fact that all these stages are very playable with hazards on is great. And kind of going back to the point that I wanted to mention is that MKLeo versus Mars. They had a game on Small Battlefield, but most of the set was played on Smashville. And man, it really made me miss this stage because it used to be, before Smash Ultimate, there was no hazards toggle. If you were playing on a stage, it had to be hazards on. So back in Smash 4, the main stage everybody would play on was Smashville, and had a lot of memories on that stage, and kind of seeing it in Ultimate being played by the 2 top competitors in the game was a sight to see, man. If you only have time to watch one set from the Gimvitational, please go give that a watch. If you like competitive Smash Ultimate or want to see what competitive Smash Ultimate kind of looks like, at least in this day and age, as we don't have offline tourneys, that's a good set to watch, as it really has the hype, the cheese, the jank, and great neutral play, just a lot. It has everything. So yeah, going on, this kind of sparks me into another point that I wanted to talk about, and that's stageless discussions. Pretty much when offline tourneys do come back, what will be like our standardized stage list, as Small Battlefield was introduced, earlier here with the 8.1 patch, and we're just wondering, how do we fit that into the competitive stage list? Are we going to end up going with like a hazards on type of stage list like Gimmer is proposing, or maybe we just have a much bigger stage list? This is what Mewtwo King, a top Smash player over all the Smash games, very stated, a veteran of our community. He suggested that we keep the hazards off, but we add just a ton of stages to our stage list. And honestly, I'm glad that these talks are back up and going. I most definitely want them to get a little bit more traction than they're seeing, because we do need a stage list change. I think Small Battlefield is really that jumping point to kind of show us that we need to play on a couple more stages. We need to have a few more thrown into the rotation, as people have time and time again shown their complaints for the much wider and less stage variety. Like we tend to have a lot of big stages that very much benefit a more defensive play style. So I'm most definitely interested in those stage list conversations. If you wanted to see Mewtwo King's point of view in terms of what stages we should have, he did put out a YouTube video on the MVG League YouTube channel, so I would go check that out. And actually, he's going to be utilizing that stage list in his upcoming sub tourney, Frame Perfect Series 2. So I will most definitely tune into that and try to see if how that stage list kind of goes about. I'm going to probably be tuning in myself, or at least catching the VODs, just to see how players play with a much larger stage list. He's like proposing like 9 stages in total to be on our list with 3 bands. And honestly, just a lot of interesting stuff. I would suggest you go watch the video if you're interested in that. Moving on here, we'll go ahead. I want to talk about there was a massive Reddit post a couple weeks ago, I believe, at this point, and it was the guys with Practical TAS and a couple of other people. I do apologize, I'm probably not properly crediting these guys, but if you look for it hard enough, you'll find these guys, and they made a massive Reddit post about an accumulation of over 600,000 Wi-Fi tournaments and just the stats from those. So everything from win rate to character pick rate to most often matchup to most often character ditto to most often stage played to these two characters versus each other. What's the most used stage that they play on? And all this stuff, there's a lot of data in here. And like I mentioned, I'm going to have a shorter podcast here, so I'm not going to really have the ample time that I will want to kind of go over all these numbers. But honestly, it's a lot, and it shows a lot about kind of the quote-unquote Wi-Fi meta. I don't know if you've heard it before, but if you haven't, or just don't feel it yourself or don't play Smash that regularly, pretty much Super Smash Bros., when you play it offline, the game feels much different from when you play it online. Many Ultimate players have shown discussed with kind of how there's a lot of delay in terms of playing online. When you press a button, it takes years for that input to kind of come out on screen. So it really changes up how you play the game and how you can kind of go about playing competitively in Smash Bros. When it's online. So a lot of interesting numbers. I'm going to highlight a few that most definitely caught my eye. One of the things being the win rate. That's a big number that people kind of like to point to in terms of characters that are better online. And the highest win rate being a tie between Ken and Richter. Very interesting there, but I do see that Simon is a separate character, so I don't know how that one particularly is calculated. They may separate Simon and Richter's number, so Richter's a little bit less important, but I'm very shocked that Ken has the highest win rate out of all these tournaments. But another interesting number on that win rate in terms of the high side is that Rob is really high on this list, and there's another number I want to go over that will kind of put that into perspective. But on the low end, you have characters like Wolf with only a 47% win rate compared to the highest Ken, who has a 59% win rate. And Rob with a top 10 win rate, he has 56% win rate. Characters like Mario, Pikachu, Shulk, Wario, Wolf, Chrom, they all have 47% win rate, much lower than some of those top tier characters. And then finally, one of the characters that offline is commonly debated as being one of the best characters in the game, Joker. He has bottom 3 in terms of online win rate with 0.41%. So kind of odd to see that. It most definitely is telling that playing the game online is just a dramatically different experience than offline. Yeah, so with that being said, the other number I wanted to point at is most played tournament characters. So like I mentioned, I wanted you to keep in mind Rob's high win rate and Joker's low win rate, because this is like the amount of times these characters have been played by different people. And one of the top ones being Cloud, who has over 399,000 plays. 39,000 plays. Sorry about that, but yeah, over 39,000 plays in different tournament games. And then second on the list is Joker with over 38,000 plays. So he's the second highest played character with the third lowest win rate. And then Wolf is also pretty high up there with 34,000 plays. Yeah, I don't know what's with me adding this extra decimal point, but yeah, 34,000 plays. And he also has a pretty low win rate with 47%. It's just kind of crazy. And then the last one, that Rob number. So Rob is top 10 in terms of most tournament character played, and he has 31,000 plays, but he has one of the top 10 win rates. So, foreseeably, a lot of people pointed at the show that Rob is very carried by Wi-Fi. That, on Wi-Fi, that character is just a different beast. So, whether you kind of believe those numbers or not, it's just most definitely a very interesting thing to look at. And if you know me, you'll know that this whole listing of numbers and all that really caught my eye, as kind of the meta of Smash Bros. Ultimate has always interested me. That was very interesting for me to look at. And yeah, I feel like I'm kind of flying through these topics. I do apologize, I'm not giving them as much weight as normal, but I'm kind of still in the tourney wrap-up section, so just wanted to kind of go through those topics and get to some of the more juicy stuff here. So going on, well, okay, before I can kind of get over to Twitter questions, which, I'm pretty anticipated and hyped up for this week, I'm going to go over real quickly because there is something I wanted to talk about within Smash Twitter once again. I mean, with the current quarantine, it's hard to kind of pull up topics out of nowhere, and Smash Twitter is just an easy pool of topics I can pull out. But I just want to talk about real quickly here the whole Mr. E situation. So Mr. E is a pretty prevalent player, he had a lot of more kind of clout in Smash 4, if you will, as he was probably like the second best Marth player, and got a lot of recognition for that. Unfortunately, I'm not talking about his play into today's topic. I'm more talking about his Twitter here. So recently he put out a twit longer kind of going over the anti-situation. So now I kind of have to even go about the anti-situation if you're unfamiliar. Pretty much Anti is one of the many, many players in the Smash community that has become now one of the infamous redacted players, as he was kind of charged with not charged, but he had some allegations put out against him that he had some sexual interactions with a minor, someone under the age of consent. Because of that, a lot of the community said that type of behavior is not tolerated. And since then, Anti has kind of been shunned from the wider Smash community. It's probably not going to be allowed into tournaments for the foreseeable future. There's a lot more to the story. There are some details I will kind of go over just to kind of make this whole Mr. E thing come into perspective, but I don't really want to just like rehash on old history. I'm only kind of saying this because there is a very important point I want to get across, but just kind of hang on with me here real quickly. So the Anti story goes a little bit deeper than that. There are some specifics about it, but pretty much Anti was given allegations of having sex with a minor, and he came out with the defense. His defense was pretty much that the minor was on Tinder, and to use Tinder you do have to be of age, of course. The minor pretty much lied to him, and his defense was that he did not know that this minor was actually a minor, and they didn't really come out until much later and tell him that they were not of age, and this was after the fact that they had already done acts. And as probably you hearing this, not much of the wider community really took that as a valid defense and just took it as an admission of him actually doing it. And like I mentioned, Anti probably won't be attending tournaments for the foreseeable future. So fast forward like a couple months now, we're here in August, and Mr. E puts out a tweet, and his tweet longer is pretty much going in, and a lot of people have deemed it as a defense of Anti. But pretty much in the tweet longer, Mr. E goes over why he thinks that the Anti case should at least be given another look, as he believes that Anti's defense was kind of misconstrued, and a lot of things about the case as a whole were, kind of assumed. Like, he points out that, a lot of people assumed that he forced the minor to take alcohol or, other substances and stuff like that. He also mentions that, the minor lied to him about her age, and, the minor herself had many accounts of lying to other people on Tinder about her age and about other things in terms of, that type of stuff. So That's it. Mr. E's defense most definitely goes a little bit more in depth. If you do have a Twitter or if you do want to look into this, I would say most definitely take a look at the twit longer yourself. I most definitely encourage people to kind of look at stuff and form their own opinions. I sometimes fall for the old gimmick of kind of looking at, hearing somebody talk about a situation and then just inheriting their opinion. But honestly, it's much better to just, look at the source material yourself and form your own opinion about the situation. But pretty much what I want to go into now is the main point of why I'm bringing this whole situation back up and everything. It's the fact that what happened afterwards, after Mr. E put this out, the greater Smash community didn't really like it. They had a lot of disgust for Mr. E's twit longer. They really postured it as victim blaming, which in a sense you most definitely could kind of get that from the twit longer, at least in my perspective. But I don't know. Just like looking at Mr. E's character, I don't think it really was intentional. Like, you really have to kind of look hard at some of the things he said to pull out, a victim blaming angle. But that was the main thing that kind of came out of that twit longer. And because of this, he ended up losing his sponsorship. Demise dropped Mr. E from their Super Smash Bros. Team, and yeah, so he lost his sponsorship due to him kind of just voicing his opinion and kind of calling just for people to relook at a case that may have not gotten as much care as he thought it deserved. The point I wanted to kind of get across is that this situation is kind of unfortunate because I don't think, while it's completely fair and valid for a sponsor or, any company that, puts their brand with a player or a person in the form of a sponsorship, it's fine for them to kind of pull themselves if they don't agree with that person's views, because at the end of the day, it's their brand. It's, their brand, and they're like, do we want to be associated with that? No, you can drop them. That's kind of how that sponsorship process works. They take a look at your views and all that. While, for the most part, they do look at top players. That's why people sign people, but they also take a look at their views and just kind of the general perception of that character. And yeah, that determines if they continue to be sponsored and everything. But since then, Mr. E had to put out an apology, reshaping his words, kind of pointing out that he really didn't mean to kind of make everything how it turned out to be. So pretty much in conclusion, Mr. E put out a defense of anti, just quote unquote defense, and just wanted to show that, this case did need a second eye. And Smash Twitter kind of took that and just saw victim blaming, and because of such, they pretty much conjoined the victim blaming stigma with Mr. E, and because of that, Demise dropped Mr. E. And I don't really like this interaction with the Smash community because it discourages people from kind of showing their opinion. I mean, if you don't go with the herd, it shows that, if your opinion isn't liked, you run the risk of being associated with much worse people for honestly just trying to speak your mind, just trying to, encourage people for more critical thinking. Now, I know you guys are probably listening to this wanting to see what's my stance, and what pretty much my stance with it. There's a reason that anti kind of got shunned out of the community, and I agree with that reason 100%. I do think that maybe some parts of his case should be looked at, but only to be looked at as to see maybe if not playing a video game on a national scale shouldn't be the only punishment, right? But that's my point of view, and that's not the whole point of this discussion, really. I'm kind of tiptoeing around eggshells here because, like I mentioned, that's kind of the stigma that the Smash community has embraced. You don't really talk about stuff, and that's the main thing I wanted to get across. All that long-windedness just to say, I think the Smash community should be much more open to opinions and not just shut anyone down who doesn't 100% agree with them. That's the end of that. yeah, we're going to move on from it. I just really wanted to take a little bit of a conversation about that. But yeah, if you want to talk more about it, feel free to DM me and all that. But yeah, all that put past, we're going to go on to Twitter questions here. So yeah, pretty much if you follow me at the biggest M, always plugging, you can ask me questions whenever I put out these weekly posts, and you could get yourself featured on the show. So we'll get right into it, as I'm going to try to blow through these, give them a lot of thought and a lot of hearty responses here. So with the first question, this is from at Jaron Lucas 2. Are there any IPs on previous Nintendo consoles you would like to see on the Switch that haven't been released? If so, what? So, of course, I would want to see some IPs be revived from Nintendo. I will say that I kind of gave this a lot of thought, and nothing really jumped to my mind, because a lot of IPs that I wanted to get revived or at least reported to the Switch have already been. Like, I'm super glad that Paper Mario series got another installation. Maybe not what everybody wanted, but I'm super happy that it's on the console. And honestly, another Mario Tennis game was something I was looking forward to. While Aces most definitely didn't deliver, at least the game came out. So, but in terms of IPs, well, this is more of a spin-off, but I would love to see another Mario Strikers game. Honestly, another Mario baseball game would be cool too. So really, any Mario sports title that hasn't seen an introduction into the Switch yet, I'm all down for. But in terms of like separate IPs, well, there's a game that I've seen on the GameCube that looks really cool. I've never played it myself, but it's going to be Custom Robo. I would love to see a Custom Robo game show up on the Switch, as it's like a game series that I think I would really enjoy, but I've never been able to kind of get my hands on the copy and play it for myself. But I would be interested to see how that would work on the Switch HD console. But yeah, moving on to the next question here. This one from at CK's Bad Takes. What DLC are you hoping to see in the second season? So, yeah, this one's kind of a simple question for me to go over. I will say a lot of my opinions have kind of been swayed by a couple of factors. Firstly, most of the characters I wanted in Smash are already in Smash. Like, my two biggest characters I wanted in the game before it was even released was Inkling and Joker from Persona 5. So Inkling from Splatoon, as soon as the game was shown off, they were already announced for the game. So I was happy there. And then our first DLC character was Joker. So I'm pretty satisfied. There's not really many characters that I want or do not want in the game. Honestly, anybody we get, I'm pretty happy with. But I will say, just to answer the question for the sake of the question, I've always kind of had a soft spot in my heart to have Minecraft Steve in the game. I feel like him being completely made up of blocks is just such a unique art style, and that would be interesting to see interact with the Smash cast. So, and I would love to see how Sakurai would design such a character. Just a sandbox building resource game character into a fighting game. That would be an interesting one. And then also, I've been watching, I believe, Backseat Game Development. It's a YouTube channel, and they put out a little series about what is the most statistically likely character representative to be put in Smash. And yeah, from that series, I kind of pulled out that I do want another shooter character to kind of be represented, because, you know, Smash is a celebration of all types of games, and I feel like shooting games are heavily underrepresented for you know, how big they kind of impact, especially the North American game market. So someone like Master Chief or a Fortnite guy would kind of be funny, or even Lara Croft, because this also hits on another point. I feel like there's not many female DLC characters, and I would love to see just a pure female character in as one of the next DLC characters. So someone like Lara Croft or maybe Tracer would be kind of cool to see. As you know, most of the female characters we've gotten in the game are like, you know, Byleth, that, you know, they're player characters, so they're technically male and female, or, you know, you just get to choose. But I want just someone that is canonically a female character. Interesting question there, but we'll keep moving on. Next, this one coming from at Asperus1. What are your thoughts on current tier list in Smash Bros? Would you make any changes? Also, can you please play My Name Is Al by Paul Simon? I don't know. I don't remember doing song requests, but I don't know. We'll have to see about the song request. But in terms of tier list, honestly, I feel like most tier lists I see from top players and even just random Joes on Twitter, the top 25 in most of their tier lists, they work. I generally don't usually disagree with those, as it's pretty clear which characters are really good in this game. Usually the bottom half is always weird. Like, people that put Doc in like bottom 5 really always kind of makes me like question mark at them. But other than that, I'm pretty much just going over flaws in tier lists that I see. Another one being, whenever someone puts Mario in top 5, I kind of discredit the list, because there's no way you could see all the characters in this game and just the tools that everybody has and thinks Mario is top 5. It's just not true. So if you put Mario in top 5, rethink your tier list, please and thank you. And then the last kind of thing I want to put out there, Ganon most definitely should be bottom 1. You guys can most definitely start up an argument about that, but just look at Ganon's matchup chart and then come back to me. Going on to the next question. This one coming from @AEchoSta. His question is, tell us about the man behind the M. What's your story? Well, so yeah, it's kind of funny. This one's going to be a shorter episode, so I can't really devolve and kind of go into everything I would love to about my own personal story, and some things that I probably don't even want to go into my personal story about. But, since it's a shorter episode, I don't really feel like I have the time to go over everything, but I will go over just kind of the basis of my Smash story, as that one's a little bit shorter and more concise and sweet, that I can kind of answer you. And hopefully that will, let you nibble on this until the next episode, where, if you ask again, I'll probably go on a little bit more about it. So we'll start all the way back to when I believe I was around maybe 5 years old. My dad has always kind of been, like, for his age, I feel like he's a gamer. He always owned gaming consoles and some of the latest games, and from the 90s and going into the 2000s. He said that he bought these games for himself, but honestly, he kind of bought them for us, as he let us play them all the time. So he had a Nintendo 64, and of course, if you have a Nintendo 64, you'll have Smash 64. Due to that, Smash 64 was one of the first games I played. More specifically, it was like the second game I remember ever playing. My first being Mario Power Tennis on the GameCube, and then for some reason I went back to the Nintendo 64 to play Smash 64. It's the second game I ever remember playing. So, and I really enjoyed it. Only thing that kind of made chills go down my spine, the game over screen from playing classic mode would always scare me. And when that happened, I would kind of run out of the room and just not want to play anymore until it went away. I don't know, just the menacing game over, and then your character kind of like ragdolls because they're supposed to be toys. It was chilling experience for me for some reason. But moving on, a couple years later, I believe I'm somewhere between 7 and 9 at this point. Melee had been out, but we had just got it for our GameCube. So I played Mario. It's the second Smash game I ever played, and this is where I kind of comfortably sat myself as a Mario main. And this is actually where the tag BigM was born, because, in Melee, that's where you could make tags. It was the first game where you could make tags, and my moniker, I wanted to be cool, and I wanted to be related to Mario, and I was like, I am the largest Mario player. I'm the biggest Mario player. And that's what I became. I became Big M because Mario had that up taunt. I would always do the up taunt. I'm like, I'm the biggest Mario. I get the biggest on people. Nobody gets big like me. So I am the big Mario. That's pretty much the origin of Big M. But going on from Melee, going to Brawl. And this one is going to be the first Smash game that I definitively got pretty much on release day. The first one that... No, I don't think that's true. That may not be true, but it's one of the first games that was bought for me and my brothers. It's the first one that we picked out to get bought for us. So Brawl, it's where I kind of got competitive, where I started being like, this match doesn't count unless we have all items off, 1v1 only. Well, not 1v1 because, I had two brothers, so we played three for alls. But regardless, it doesn't count unless it's 1v1, items off, stuff like that. And one of the vivid memories is the stage creator had tons of fun with that. But honestly, even one of the default stages, the pit, if you know, the pit was the place to brawl, man. I played Mario, Snake, a little bit of Sonic. I played a couple of other characters in that game. I think I played some Toon Link and of course some Ganondorf. But yeah, and then moving on to Smash 4, and this is where I blossomed completely into my competitive self today. I started attending tournaments near the end of the lifespan of Smash 4. So after Bayo got nerfed, that's when I went to my first tournament. It was held actually at a church, but honestly, a lot of talent was there. Toffee was there. That's the first time I met Toffee at these church tournaments. So interesting memory. That's also the first time I met MJG too. That was really weird that all those guys were there, but yeah. And then lastly, we go into Ultimate. And this is where we are today, baby. I mean, if you want a history lesson about that, started my competitive career at K-State. I became a PR player. Was 7th on the first one and then 8th on the second, I believe. And yeah, since then I've kind of came back to Lenexa, kind of the Kansas City area, and I'm kind of stagnant as I'm not really a big online tourney competitor. So yeah, going on to the next and last question here, we have Yellow Salami. He asks, have you ever thought about dropping Mario? And if so, for what character? So I guess there's a little bit I want to go on. So before the game dropped, when we were all in that hype train state waiting for Smash Bros. Ultimate, I wanted to play Mario, of course, as, I am the Big M. But I also wanted to play Pokemon Trainer. I actually picked up Charizard at the end of Smash 4's lifespan because I wanted to play Pokemon Trainer. Because that character was... Oh, that's one of the other characters I played in Brawl a lot. Because Pokemon Trainer is so cool in design. And I was most definitely onto something. Don't know why I didn't keep up with it. But I also wanted to play Cloud because I played him in Smash 4. And then Inkling, like I mentioned, that was one of my most hyped characters I wanted in the game. And I really wanted to play Inkling. I guess for Trainer, it just felt like I couldn't really pocket Trainer. It doesn't seem very viable, so that's why I dropped them early. Cloud, I just really lost faith in that character, so I didn't end up playing them. And then Inkling, I felt that they were too similar to Mario and just much more boring overall. So I ended up dropping that character. And of course, Mario stayed, and for some reason, Ganon stayed. Because he's super fun. And then next, I do want to talk about the little phase where most people were going through character crisis. I went through my own type of character crisis, and that's where I just didn't have faith in any of the characters I played. But I didn't want to play other characters because I've been pretty committed to Mario, and at this point, I'm probably going to play him for the foreseeable future. There's not going to be a time where I'm not a Mario main. So there was just a time where I thought Mario was really bad. I thought he was a mid-tier at best because I just couldn't combo with a character, and I didn't have faith in that character. But I started watching a lot more tapes, and I'm like, okay, this character's busted. And yeah, I'm much happier for it. But I do want to mention this little tidbit because I always want to talk about this, but it never really comes up for obvious reasons. But I feel like there's an alternate universe where I play Rob because back in the Brawl days, Rob was an interesting character to me, but he was like the bad guy in Subspace Emissary, so I never really wanted to play the character. I was like, oh, they're bad, so I play the good guy, Mario. So I never ended up playing the character, and I don't know, whenever I see Rob play, like players like Waddy, he was like one of the third most player that I've watched. Watching him kind of farm weeklies at Xanadu's honestly was a very interesting time for me. I actually really liked watching Waddy play, and his Rob made me actually enjoy that character a lot, so it wasn't too far-fetched that I would play Rob in Ultimate, but I never really did it and never really caught traction with the character. But there is a universe where instead of Big M, I am Big Rob. That joke actually is funny on much more levels. But kind of close it out there as you could think about an alternate universe where I'm playing Rob instead of Mario. And I'll just leave you with that thought. I do thank you guys for tuning in as I round it down. The next episode, I don't know when this one will release, but it'll be sometime before September 20th. Sometime between those first 2 weeks of September is when this episode will likely drop, because I want to kind of get in with the editing, try out a few things. This has been an experimental episode of Power Up Podcast, and hopefully by episode 3 we'll have a more definitive version of what these episodes will look like. But once again, be sure to follow me over at the Biggest M on Twitter. And be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, because I'm going to be posting these on that. You may be watching it on YouTube right now. Go ahead and drop a like and subscribe. And be sure to support the show. Thank you very much, and hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Big M signing out.